Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started. I would like to welcome all of you to our Wine Jewels of the Ancient World presentation. I know we can't go and visit these wonderful places right now and have these experiences, so we wanted to bring the experiences to you in your home so that you can have some level of enjoyment and some anticipation of some wonderful travel that is to come. I'd like to introduce you to your hosts. My name is James Murphy. I'm the co-owner of Expedia Cruises and Expedia Wine Club Cruises, along with my brother, Brian Murphy. Brian really is our coordinator of our wine cruise program. We also have Michael Van Wittenhoff, that's here as our regional sales and marketing director from Oceania Cruises. And of course, many of you already know Paul Wagner from previous trips with Paul, and he's going to be sharing his wine experience with us as we move through the presentation. So these are the two wines that we're tasting this evening. I would recommend you go ahead and open up your white wine and you can sip along with us as we travel through the Mediterranean. And then of course, later on when Paul comes, he'll talk about both wines that we're tasting this evening. So this trip is going to be Barcelona to Istanbul. I mean, what an incredible itinerary that is. Barcelona is one of my favorite cities. It goes from Barcelona to Marseille, Portofino, Rome, Sorrento, down to the soccer ball on the end of Italy in Taormina, over to Argostoli, down to Konya, to Athens, Ephesus, and then it ends in Istanbul. And I just look at that itinerary and go, wow, that is something I definitely want to do. The trip starts on October 6th through the 18th of 2021. It's a 12-night cruise. And we want to just walk you through the itinerary. We'll show you some beautiful pictures of what's out there to come. I just have to kind of keep monitoring who's coming into the meeting so we get them all in. And I notice, Maria, you can go ahead and turn your video camera off. I can't see in the list how to do that. Thank you so much. Okay, so as we start our wonderful trip in Barcelona, one of my favorite cities in all of Europe, I remember having a wonderful experience with Paul Wagner on a wine cruise where we were having tapas right on the Ramblas in the outdoor dining, drinking sangria and just ordering tapas. It was just an incredible evening. The Ramblas is this walking street that's really long and it's just wonderful. It's full of shops and restaurants and outdoor dining. It was just an incredible experience. I put the picture.
And then right on, James, right on Las Ramblas is the Boqueria Market, which is a classic old European market, but also a place where each of the booths usually has some little version of what they're selling as a raw material in a cooked form so that you can not only see these beautiful displays, but you can taste some of their food. And it's a great place to grab lunch by just going around to the different booths and buying a little taste of this and a little taste of that.
And I had the opportunity to do a similar cruise, but I did it in reverse. We went from Athens to Barcelona last summer. So when we were in Italy, we were eating prosciutto. And when we got to the La Boqueria, I saw all the ham lined up and I said the word prosciutto and the guy gave me a very dirty look. And he said, in Barcelona, it's jamon. And they had just racks of them all lined up and they had very expensive to very reasonable. So we did a tasting. We ordered small quantities of the very expensive stuff and larger quantities of the less expensive stuff and some bread and just went and had a great experience. And the jamon is very good. One of the unique things in Barcelona is the Sagrada Familia, which is the Basilica of Barcelona, built by Gaudi. And it's very dramatic. The architecture is dramatic. Gaudi has many representations of his architecture throughout the city. But the last time we were there last year, we got to do a tour on the inside. And inside the basilica, the sun is shining and the different colors that the stained glass projects through was just exceptional. It was truly an exceptional tour. From Barcelona, we're going to go to Marseille. Marseille is one of those wonderful port towns. You can see the marina on the right-hand side with the beautiful walking streets. And on the left-hand side, I thought that was just a beautiful picture that I saw that really brings the old world of the fort with the new world of the museum. And they have that long bridge that connects to the museum. And it was just a very dramatic, very nice look for that.
Yeah, Marseille is one of my favorite cities. It's one of the things I love about it is it is ancient. It was founded originally by the Phoenicians. The Greeks traded there. The Romans used it as a way of entering Gaul and conquering France. And then, of course, for hundreds of years, it's been the port city to export all of those fabulous wines from the Rhone Valley. So Châteauneuf-du-Pape, Hermitage, all of those wines got shipped around the world, coming down first to Marseille. Wonderful city to wander around and actually stop in cafes and eat classic food of the Southern Rhone and drink great wine.
Very nice. So the cruise continues on to Portofino. I mean, I just love this picture. You can just envision coming ashore and on, right in the center there, that little walkway with all those outdoor cafeterias that are right on the water. Even just going in the morning and walking around and having a coffee there just makes me want to be there so badly. Some of the things to do there is they do have a wonderful marine reserve, and they talked about kayaking there, and the hiking there is supposed to be just wonderful.
Great place for a little seafood lunch. And I do want to correct you, James. It's a cafeteria. It's not a cafeteria. Because they're really not like what we think of as a cafeteria. No. They are, in fact, these lovely little boutique cafes, each with their little umbrellas and a waiter who is almost always good for some entertainment.
Yes, very true, very true. Then the cruise is going to continue on to Rome. Now, Rome is one of those beautiful major cities in Europe that even if you've been there before, it's just an opportunity to see the next layer in that wonderful town. Looking at the Vatican there, when we got to do the tour of the Vatican, it was truly an impressive tour. It was just a wonderful thing. And not to mention, there's so much, the Trevi Fountain, the Colosseum. It was definitely something that I want to go back and visit in order to be able to see more of the sites there.
Yeah, and great wines too. I mean, this is Rome. This is the capital of Italy. So there are restaurants, regional restaurants from all over Italy there. And you just can't walk through Rome without stumbling over something that's 2,000 years old. And that to me is always just completely entertaining.
Definitely, definitely. So then the cruise moves on to Sorrento, Capri. That was one of the ports we got to visit last year, and I was amazed. Sorrento is one of those beautiful towns with these little walking streets, but lemons are the big thing in that town, and every shop has got yellow and lemons and limoncello, and they'll taste limoncello right as you're just walking along. You just got to be careful not to taste too much so that you can figure out where to get back to the ship. But we had a great time there. It was very great. There was a little plaza. We sat down. We had little pizzas right there in the middle, watched everybody walk by. And of course, this port is also where Mount Vesuvius is, where all the ash covered Pompeii. And the tour included that. So we went to Pompeii, and that was truly an amazing experience to see how old everything was and how well preserved it was. They were able to dig it out and uncover it. And it's almost like you can envision people walking around that live there. It's truly an amazing sight. It was great for the whole family.
Yeah, me too. And the wonderful thing about Pompeii is that you have these wine bars literally every 10, 20, 30 yards on every street in Pompeii. There are wine bars. So, even the ancients were drinking this stuff almost like water. And you can see they have holes in the counters, and they'd literally reach in with a ladle and pull out a cup of wine and pour it for you. And I was ready to pull up a chair.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful too. Okay, then the cruise continues on to Taormina, wonderful port. This little plaza on the bottom, our tour met right there and went down the walking street on the left side of that church. And it was truly just a wonderful experience. One of those beautiful European towns with all the little markets and the little stores. It was truly a wonderful experience. We really enjoyed it. And of course, there in Taormina, they also have the ancient Roman theater there.
Yeah, this is actually part of what was called originally Magna Graecia, which means the Greater Greece, because it was actually settled by Greeks first, and the Romans only came much later. So there are both Greek and Roman ruins here. And the food is kind of a combination of Greek and Italian together. There are wonderful restaurants in Taormina and actually a really good wine shop. So if anybody's interested in buying wine in Sicily, they have great wine there. And then, of course, I assume James is going to make the offer that one of the special trips we offer on this cruise is a private group tour up to Benanti Winery, which is right up on the slopes of Mount Etna, right on the side of the volcano. Spectacular wine, spectacular setting, and a really friendly, warm, fun family.
And that is very true, Paul. We definitely are going to have that tour as well. And I do remember being at that winery, and they walk you out into the vineyard right on the hillside. And the owners were right there talking to us about the different grapes and how they make it. And then they served us a wonderful lunch inside the winery before we left. It was a wonderful experience, highly recommended. So then the cruise is going to go over to Argostoli, which you can see is another one of these beautiful ports of call. You're now in Greece. The walking street there, everything is beautiful. They say they have the best beaches in Greece, really clear water and warm water. So it looks like a wonderful place. I can't wait to go and visit.
And you know, it's funny, we think of Greek food as being moussaka and spanakopita and things like that. But in fact, the most popular food in Greece is fish. And you're seeing why by looking at these beaches and these coasts. And so the assyrtiko that you're drinking tonight is absolutely designed to go with a plate of calamari or sardines or a fresh branzino right out of the Mediterranean there. And so it's a perfect combination. It's what Greek does best, and you know, you sit there and you think, wow, Socrates could be walking by right now.
There you go. There you go. And then the cruise continues, and we go to Konya. Konya is another beautiful port city. You can see the little what would they be called in Greece, Paul? Not a cafeteria.
Just a cafe, seaside cafe.
Okay, the seaside cafe is right there on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, Konya, at least according to them, has the oldest lighthouse in the Mediterranean. So that is one of their landmarks, and of course, the beautiful clear water of
and this is an ancient area. You know, this was an area that was civilized before ancient Greece. This was the home of Midas, who turned everything into gold, remember, with his touch, but also was home to the labyrinth and the Minotaur. I'm really looking forward to visiting Crete. It's a legendary place. They should have some spectacular wines, and they are continually finding these new archaeological locations all over the island. So really excited about visiting Crete. Excellent,
excellent. Then the cruise continues on to Athens. Athens, wonderful city. That was my first experience there last year. We got to walk the trail up the Acropolis and visit the Parthenon. Of course, it wasn't a very touristy day on this picture, because my picture of my family, I think there's 500 other people milling around. But on this particular day, not a lot of attendance. On the left-hand side, they have one of the amphitheaters there that is still used today as a venue for concerts. But just what an exceptional experience. I mean, the history of standing on the Acropolis and the landmarks there that I've only seen in documentaries, and be able to stand right there and look at it was truly amazing. And the new Acropolis Museum is right next door, where they show you images and dioramas of what it looked like when it was fully originally built and not kind of run down like it is now. So it was a wonderful museum.
Yeah. That theater, remember, is where Sophocles would have performed the Bacchae, which is the story of Dionysus, the god of wine.
Oh,
And that would have been, what, 2,500 years ago?
yeah,
I'm looking forward to seeing that. And just this is in many ways the capital of Greek culture for 2,000 years.
definitely, definitely. And then the cruise continues on to Ephesus. Ephesus is known for its ancient Roman ruins, and the tall structure that they show there is the remains of the library. And they say at the time of the Roman Empire, when this was active, it was the third largest library in the world. So it was an amazing place. And now you can go through and see the ruins.
Yeah, and this is also an ancient Greek city. The original Temple of Diana here was one of the 7 ancient wonders of the world, so you can check that off your list. But it's Turkey. So we think of Turkey and Greece as being wildly different countries. So do they. But remember that 2,000 years ago, this was all part of the same crew. And if you ever saw, the Trojan War with Brad Pitt, all of this stuff happened right around here. And we get to walk on that very ground and look around at what they were seeing. And if anybody offers you a wooden horse, I'd pass on that one.
For sure. And then our cruise terminates in Istanbul, another amazing city. I am dying to go and visit this one because I read about all the historical events in Istanbul, the connecting of the European continent and the Asian continent, bringing those together with the first bridge that spanned 2 continents. But just all the history, the Blue Mosque, the Spice Market, the Topkapi Palace with the sultans, and then the Grand Bazaar they show. I've seen pictures of it where it just looks like an amazing place to walk through, very busy. But yeah, just lots of amazing. I can't wait to go and visit that.
And we think of the Roman Empire as running from about 300 or 400 BC to 400 or 500 AD, and we call it the Roman Empire because we think the capital was Rome. But later on, the capital actually moved to Istanbul by King Constantine, or Caesar Constantine. And so he called it Constantinople. And this city, while Rome fell, this city continued to be the capital of the eastern half of the Roman Empire for another 1,000 years. It really is the center of the Greek Eastern Russian Orthodox Church. That was all Constantine. And so it has a continuous culture that goes back almost as far as Rome, and in many ways kept that culture more alive than Rome did for many years. So spectacular place to visit. The Hagia Sophia church built by the Romans, now a mosque, but just I'm really looking forward to seeing this. And it's absolutely on my bucket list, James.
Yes, mine too. Well, that was a little bit about where we're going. I'd like to bring Michael on, and we're going to go ahead and talk about how we're going to get there and how are we going to move between all these spots. So Michael, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Great. Thanks, James and Paul. Well, hello, everybody. I'm coming to you from, well, it was sunny Palm Springs, but it's a little dark here now. And I'm happy to say it's not 30 degrees. So sorry for this. Some of the areas. It's fun to hear where everyone's coming in from today. But hey, I got to say that, first of all, we are honored to be part of this program. I mean, this is an amazing itinerary, and you all know it better than anyone. No one does these wine enrichment cruises better than Expedia North Bay. So I want to tell you a little bit about us, Oceania, your home away from home, if you will, taking you to some of these exotic destinations. And what's really great about this itinerary as well is, you're seeing a lot in 12 days. In fact, there's only one sea day, and you're traveling at night. So you're exploring these great destinations by day, and at night, having some great wines paired with some delicious food. And that's one of our core pillars is exquisitely crafted cuisine. Oceania is really known for delivering the finest cuisine at sea. And I'll tell you a little bit about that in just a few moments, but also on the size of our ships. We're known for small ship luxury. Our ships are much smaller than most that are out there. And there's a lot of benefits that go along with that. And then, of course, the curated travel experiences, because obviously we're taking the destinations. Expedia is doing some great shoreside trips for you. We're offering some as well when they're not. So it's a lot of good choices here for you. So let's talk a little about these ships real quickly. You're actually traveling on my personal favorite, which is the Riviera. She is a beautiful ship. And you take a look at this image here, and it kind of puts in perspective how intimate in size she actually is. I mean, she carries about half the number of guests that some of the big ships out there carry. So there's lots of space. It's great because you see people over and over again. That's one of the challenges like I've had in bigger ships. You meet somebody or traveling with somebody, it's hard to find them again on the ship. So a great size. And as far as, as I mentioned, the size, I just don't know how many guests are on board. There's only 625 staterooms and suites on this ship. And this picture right here shows you the pool area. And that's one of the things that, we don't talk about in brochures is because of this limited amount of guests that we have on board, it's much more effortless. There's no lines. If you want a deck chair on that day at sea to get to read a book or get some sun, it's easy to find a deck chair. There's a lot of little private areas as well, but a really nice, comfortable atmosphere, unrushed and so forth. And the ship itself, she's beautiful. We say small ship luxury, but sometimes luxury sounds a little stuffy, doesn't it? We're definitely not that way. There's no dress codes in Oceania. In fact, there's no formal night. So you just dress for dinner as you would go into a restaurant back home. The atmosphere on board, it's very, again, comfortable luxury, if you will. In fact, we have amazing curated art throughout the ship that was handpicked by our founder. I mean, there's everything from like big names of Picasso down to local artists from some of the ports that we travel to. A lot of fun. So it's a real beautiful environment. The accommodations on board, we have a lot of different choices for you. This photo here that you see is pretty much a standard stateroom on the Riviera. We offer either a veranda, which is shown here. We have picture window staterooms, which is a floor to ceiling window. All the bathrooms are marble with a separate full-size tub, as well as a separate shower, extensive 24-hour room service. We even have a bar set up in the staterooms and the suites with all your mixers and so forth. So if you bring on board your favorite spirit to enjoy a cocktail on your veranda before dinner, or maybe your favorite bottle of wine from your cellar back home, we have the accoutrement all set up there for you. So in addition to that, we have many suites and penthouses. This photo here is one of our penthouses. So as you can see, much larger. It also has butler service as well. All of our staterooms have 2 stewards or stewardesses, but then we add a third layer with the butlers in our penthouses and above. So a little bit of something for everyone, depending on how you like to travel. But let's talk about the fun part. You're going to have some great wines on this trip. That's already a major promise. But our job is to pair those great wines with some exquisite food. So those of you that are not familiar with us probably don't know that Jacques Papin is our executive culinary director. Great guy. And he's just not a celebrity chef associated with our brand. He's quite active with us. Helps design the menus, helps with our hiring, just a really involved, I hate to say celebrity chef, because these days celebrity chefs are a little bit different than the true masters like Jacques Papin. So we can go to that next slide. And so here's a bit of his team. This photo here is kind of fun. I just want to throw out a little tidbit because it's easy for us to say we have the finest cuisine at sea, but it doesn't just come easily. We invest substantially. In fact, we spend more money per guest on the culinary delivery than any other cruise line. But this photo here, this is one of our executive chefs tasting every item on the menu in that particular restaurant. I mean, he tastes everything before he gives the thumbs up to be delivered to guests in the restaurants. It's pretty amazing. And by the way, the restaurants, they're all complimentary. So there's a lot of choices for you, no additional charge. The ingredients, they're a major part of the delivery of that finest cuisine. We buy as much as we can locally. When you go in a store, you're going to see our chefs riding ashore to the local markets to get some produce and so forth. Our fish, we have a lot of fish choices on board our ships. It's always fresh, never frozen. In fact, I was sharing with some of the team this morning. I just learned this actually. Oceania is the #1. We consume more lobsters than any other cruise line, our 6 ships. So our flour is from France. So we really invest in the ingredients because it just makes it taste better. The restaurants, I would say right now, maybe take a sip of your red varietal. This is the Polo Grill. If you're a meat eater like myself, I'll tell you, best bone-in ribeye I've had in my life was in this very restaurant. Other restaurants that we have for you to choose from include Toscana, absolutely authentic, delicious Italian cuisine. In fact, a lot of the recipes are from of our chef's family's old recipes. So here I would take a sip of white. We're gonna go back and forth. But I mentioned Jacques Pepin earlier, and what's great about the Riviera, he actually has his own restaurant on board the Riviera. It's called Jacques, pictured here. The artwork you see in the restaurant, that's all from his private collection. And on the menu are some of his favorite dishes that he has created through the decades of experience that he's had. So that's going to be a real joy as well. Kind of on the lighter side, and a real popular favorite is red ginger. Asian infusion, everything from like a miso cod wrapped in banana leaf, fresh cut sushi, just spectacular. And by the way, all the menus, they're very extensive. So there's usually something for everyone, and everything is cooked fresh to order so we can accommodate special requests. This is a great photo, isn't it? Because I don't know about all of you, but I'm ready to start traveling. This kind of takes you there as well, like that photo of that we saw earlier of Portofino. But this is a couple dining on our terrace, outdoor terrace. This is our most casual of all of our options. You can even go up in shorts if you wanted to, but a great place to dine al fresco. The menu changes every night. It is partially full service, but we're actually making some changes there as well as we go back in a couple of months. But amazing place to have a nice casual dinner, especially under the stars. Now, this is one of my favorite venues. As I've mentioned, we have several restaurants for you to enjoy as you travel to these destinations. They're all complimentary, as I mentioned, but there's one exception. It's a private dining room that we have done with Wine Spectator magazine. It's called La Reserve. And this restaurant, actually, I'm not going to call it a restaurant. It's a dining room. And it holds only 24 guests. And every night we will feature different varietals of wine or even champagnes. To give you a quick example, our latest partnership is with Dom Perignon. And we have a dinner here, a 7-course dinner, and every course is paired with a different vintage of Dom. It's absolutely one of those experiences that you'll treasure the rest of your life. So that's a real fun thing to do. This is our culinary center. You know, we have the industry's first hands-on culinary center. So I always say, whether you're a cook or not, it's fun to get in and take one of these classes. And what makes it a lot more fun is they're serving some very nice local wines from the places that we travel, complimentary as you cook. So that makes it a lot more fun. So you can roll up your sleeves and get cooking. We also have some shoreside experiences paired with this on this particular itinerary. I'll just say real quick, we have a new tour, and that's truffle foraging with a local farmer outside of Marseille. So that'll be a lot of fun as well. Baristas for coffees, go in the morning, or do you recoup between wine tastings that Expedia is putting together for you, all complimentary. So everything non-alcoholic on board our ships is complimentary, specialty coffees, bottled waters, sodas, whatever you'd like. So this is a nice little area to get recharged. And this is the pool again. Beautiful sunset I see there. In fact, that in the funnel, that's the baristas right there above our pool. Gives you I tell you, this really makes you want to go there, most definitely. So that's our pool again. And that's a little bit about Oceania. So I hope to see you on board.
Well, thank you very much, Michael. I can't wait to come on board. I wanted to share a little bit about what makes the wine program so special with our wine cruises. On this particular sailing, there's a welcome aboard reception, there's 4 regional wine seminars, and there's 4 exclusive wine paired dinners. So that's 9 events. And I think it's truly fun when I have the opportunity to watch Brian and Paul and get together and just start brainstorming what would be fun to do. You know, it's not like when we're working with a winery where we have to use their wines and just what they have. When we travel with Paul, he looks at the world and says, you know what would be amazing is if we did this, and I know how to get the wines. And it's just such a fun activity. And then they end up planning these exceptional experiences that, you know, some of you have gotten to participate in. And I guess I would just say they are amazing. They're for the wine enthusiast. So as we move on, there's also these additional amenities that come with the cruise. You get prepaid gratuities, which on the longer cruises over 12 nights, that's going to be a great benefit. And it's only exclusively when you book with us. Of course, you've got the finest cuisine at sea. Oceania is known for their food. They win awards for their food. And I still think about red ginger and that miso glazed sea bass and the duck and watermelon salad. Whew. Don't get me started, Paul, about the lobsters in the Terrace Cafe. You do get an internet package, one per stateroom. It's country club casual. It is so nice to not have to put on a tie and a suit and just relax and enjoy yourself. And all the beverages, the non-alcoholic beverages are complimentary. You can go up and get your cappuccino or specialty coffee. When you walk off the ship for shore excursions, they have trays of water bottles. You just grab a water bottle so that you have water to stay hydrated, like while you're going on a hike or whatever it is you're going to do. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Paul. He's going to tell us a little bit about the wine regions and about these beautiful wines that we're drinking.
Yeah, well, I hope you had a chance to drink some of that Assyrtiko from Greece. This is a wine that comes from, northeast of Athens. If you're looking at the map there, you'll notice that there is a deep sea that comes in there between Athens and Istanbul. And this comes from the coast there between Thessalonica and Macedonia. Of course, Macedonia is where Philip of Macedon and his son, Alexander the Great, came from. So it's that area of Greece. Assyrtiko is a indigenous Greek grape, so it isn't really grown anywhere else in the world. The only place you can get it is Greece. But if your vision of Greek wine is sort of rustic Retsina, and don't get me started on Retsina because I actually think it's a really fascinating wine. But these modern styles, you know, the European Union 25 years ago invested very heavily in developing agriculture throughout Europe. And one of the ways they did that was to give what we would have considered in those days rather backward wine regions the technology, the stainless steel tanks, the temperature controls, the barrels they need to make really good wines. And what they discovered, of course, was in most of these regions, there are ancient vineyards, there are indigenous grape varieties to make fabulous wines, and all they needed was the expertise and the equipment to make them. So this is an example of the new style of Greek wine. It's a family-owned winery there in Serres. And I just think it's lovely. It's bright, it's lively. Again, this is not a California Chardonnay. This is a wine. Think of it like that slice of lemon that is served on the side of the plate with your platter of fried calamari or your branzino in lemon and caper sauce in a cafe on the waterfront there. And that's what this wine does. It livens up your mouth. It's got the acidity to stand up to the fish. And in the perfect scenario, you take a bite of calamari, it's delicious. You take a sip of wine, it's fresh, it's lively, it rinses your mouth out. And the first thing you say is, gosh, maybe I should have another calamari. You have another calamari and you say, gosh, maybe I should have another sip of wine. And before you know it, both the calamari and the bottle are gone. It's the kind of wines we're going to be drinking on this entire trip. Spain, France, Italy, Greece, each one will do a wine tasting of those regions. If you don't know the wines of northeastern Spain, this was the kingdom of Aragon. Remember when Ferdinand and Isabel got married? They were the Catholic kings and they unified Spain. But Aragon was a region that was very important before he ever married Isabel. It's on the Camino de Santiago, so that pilgrims who are going from France and Italy walked across this region. They got to Santiago on their way home. They tasted this really interesting grape. It's a Spanish grape. Grenache is not a French grape. Garnacha is the original name. It comes from northeastern Spain near Barcelona, and the pilgrims from Santiago took it back to the Rhone near Marseille to call it Grenache. But this is one of the originals right here that you're drinking, the Tres Picos Borsao. The town is Campo de Borja, and Borja is the Spanish pronunciation of Borgia. You may have heard of Lucretia Borgia and her brother, who was the Pope. The Borgias were a Spanish family who became very powerful in the 1400s, famous for being powerful and not particularly ethical or moral. But what do you want from a Pope? But anyway, the wine, I just think, is one of the most delicious wines you can buy. It's fresh, it's intense. When you think of Grenache, you think of sort of rose petals and bright red characteristics, but this wine has an intensity and a freshness and a liveliness. Absolutely fabulous wine. So we'll taste wines like this Tres Pico, we'll taste Montsant, we may taste some Priorat, some Cava, some Empordà. All of these are wines from Barcelona. One of the other tastings will focus primarily on the Rhone. So we'll be tasting Châteauneuf-du-Pape, Gigondas, Saint-Joseph, Hermitage, all of those in the Marseille area. And then we go on to Italy, where we can taste Tuscan wines. I've already got messages out to some of my friends in Italy saying, hey, is there any chance you could get us a little bit of that wine or a little bit of the other wine? I'm hopeful that we'll be able to taste a little bit of one of my favorites, Vino Nobile de Montepulciano in Italy, Taormina. And then we go to Greece, where we'll taste Zino Mavro, one of the ancient varieties. We'll taste Assyrtiko. We'll taste these wonderful combinations. And hopefully in Izmir, which is the modern day Ephesus, I'm going to be able to find a couple of wines. I have a couple of my students from Napa Valley College are from Turkey, and they're working hard right now. We may even be able to taste a wine called Emir, which is an ancient Turkish variety. And Turkey, the eastern part of Turkey, is in the Caucasus Mountains, and that is the birthplace of wine. And right now, there's a very polite but very sincere argument as to whether wine originated in Armenia, in Turkey, in Azerbaijan, or in Georgia. And of course, they all claim to be the home of wine, but the truth is it was in those mountains that the original wine was made. It's the birthplace of wine, and it would be wonderful to taste a wine or two from that country as well. So I'm really looking forward to it. The food on the ship is wonderful. A couple of our dinners will probably be, one of them maybe in the Polo Grill, one of them in Toscana, so in those theme restaurants, maybe in Jacques. I know a couple of them are planned for that. I love the restaurants. I think Jacques Pepin, my wife is a professional chef, and Jacques Pepin is one of her heroes, not just because he cooks well, but because he expresses so beautifully the fact that cooking is ultimately taking the love you have for someone and putting it on a plate and sharing it with them. And that, to me, is what this cruise is all about. We're going to have fabulous wine. We're going to have fabulous food. Most of all, we're going to have a fabulous time. And at this point, I know James is going to go on and on about how wonderful the people are at Expedia Cruise Ship Centers in Petaluma, but I want you to start thinking about what you're going to say when we get to the end of this presentation, and I'm going to ask you what you think of these wines. James?
Very good. Well, thank you so much, Paul. And I hope everybody is tasting the wines and preparing some comments. And while you're sipping, I'll tell you just a little bit about us, in case those of you who aren't familiar with Expedia Cruises North Bay. We're not a call center. The name Expedia, we are part of the Expedia family, but we are a locally owned full service travel agency, and our travel advisors are professional, fully trained on how to take care of your complete vacation. So we encourage you to give us a call. You can click call, or we can do video appointments, just like we're doing now with Zoom. Our travel professionals can set up a Zoom call with you so that you can have more of that face-to-face experience. Of course, our phone number is here. Our email address is here, thewineclub@expediacruises.com. And Michael was so nice as to give us an incentive, $100 per stateroom onboard credit. Initially, he wanted to make it very short window, but we said, let's let them talk about it over the holidays, and we'll make it till early January so that you can talk to friends and family. You're probably going to do some Zoom stuff. Hopefully no one's doing in-person get-togethers. But talk about who you would like to travel with. These kinds of trips are so much fun when you travel with friends and family and people you enjoy being with. And everyone that travels with you will be able to take advantage of the $100 per stateroom onboard credit. So with that, we will go ahead and open it up to questions. I think I'm going to stop the PowerPoint so that we could all turn our video cameras on.
Good.
And be social again. And feel free to unmute yourself, turn your video camera on, and let's ask some questions about how you enjoyed the wine or the presentation.
And if you have questions for either James or me or Michael, please go ahead and ask them. That's all part of the show here. In fact, one of the questions, James, one of the questions we got in a previous session was a good question, which is how much do we charge for these special wine tastings and dinners that we're doing on board the ship?
Well, I think all of you know, if you were going to go out and purchase 4 wine dinners and then purchase 4 exclusive wine tastings, not to mention the reception, it would be a pretty penny. And I'm sure we could play the game of how much would it cost you to go out and buy all that, but it's included. It's all part of your cruise fare when you're traveling with us and this particular cruise. So no additional cost.
The only additional cost, James, is they have to listen to me talk.
That is true, but they have wine to make it easier.
Good.
Okay, there's a lot of video cameras that aren't on. There must be some pent-up questions. Anybody? Okay, so there's a comment in there, Paul, which is up your alley. It says, before it was Constantinople, it was Byzantium, which is where we get the word Byzantine.
Yes, exactly right. Exactly right. So it's actually a city that's had 3 different names over the years. And in fact, in many ways, people call that what is essentially the Eastern Roman Empire. They used to call it the Byzantine Empire, but it really was the eastern half of the Roman Empire. And here's the thing that's a little hard for us to wrap our brains around. When they split the Roman Empire into 2, and they did that because one of the emperors had 2 sons, and what do? Well, you split things. The guy who got the eastern half was both of them were absolutely convinced that the eastern half was the better half. So one guy got all of Europe. The other guy got the Middle East, and the Middle East was richer. It had all the connections with trade to the Far East. It had gold and frankincense and jewels. And frankly, Western Europe was kind of cold and primitive. And, you had a bunch of Scots running around in kilts, and it really wasn't the same sort of show. So they absolutely considered the eastern half of the Roman Empire to be richer and more powerful and more affluent. And of course, over time that changed. But yeah, the history and legacy of that is really pretty spectacular.
Okay, so when we look at our first wine, what did everybody think? Any comments?
Anybody having calamari?
Oh, that would be so good.
I wish.
Oysters.
Yeah.
Oh, oysters.
Ooh,
Oysters, yeah, absolutely.
I've got a question for you.
Yes.
Mhm.
Are you guys planning any 2022 sailings yet? For those of us who are like way down on the list of getting the vaccine in 2021.
We
Well,
do.
I know I'm doing one with James and Brian that leaves Santiago, Chile, and goes to Buenos Aires, Argentina, around Cape Horn. And that's another fairly long cruise. I've always wanted to sail around Lake Horn, Cape Horn, and I have dear friends both in Chile and Argentina, so I know the wines on that one are going to be spectacular as well. That's in January, February of 2022.
Paul, this is Margaret from Tucson, and I'm booked on that particular cruise. But I was also on a cruise with you in 2016, which was in association with Sunset Magazine.
Yes.
And that's where I first became acquainted with Oceania, which I am in love with.
That was this ship, wasn't it? Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to going to South America with you again, because I thought you were so totally engaging and informative. It was amazing. It was just amazing.
Well,
Everything was pulled together. Everything was pulled together so well. And I know that Brian and Jim had a lot to do with that. And I thought that was a great cruise. And then I've been on 4 Oceania cruises since.
Cool.
So
yeah.
Well,
Happy memories. Happy memories. And I love this ship. That's right. That was on this exact ship. And I still remember that cruise. What a treat.
that was great.
okay, someone said that the white wine, they're saying it's a glorious new wine for them, and thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. Yeah. And what about the red wine? James has to switch hands now.
Yeah, I know.
The Tres Picos is an old friend of ours. We've been drinking it for years, but couldn't find it for the last year and a half.
Managed to find a case. So
we got a
we're
case
happy.
from K&L, and we went and picked it up in their Redwood City location because we're really close to them. And so happy to find it again.
It's a wonderful, isn't it a wonderful wine? And to think, that was a wine that, the pilgrims on their way to Santiago were probably tasting, and it's what taught the French how good Grenache could be. So yeah, what a great wine, and what a great deal. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions. Any other comments you want to make, Michael or Paul?
No, just thanks for having me. I tell you, you've got me sold. I want to go with you.
You know
That
what?
would be fun.
Pretty great trip lined up.
If you sign up before the 5th of January, Micah, we'll give you $100 cabin credit for you there.
Thank you. I'll take it. Hey, you can always apply that towards that the reserve dinner, everybody.
That's right.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for joining us. It's so fun for us to be able to try to bring these opportunities to you and help us all shelter in place while we get through this period of time. And hopefully, I'm keeping my fingers crossed, the vaccine will be coming out and helping us get through all of this as fast as possible. So I wish you all a very happy holidays. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll say bye for now. Yeah, cheers.
Thank you very much.
Holidays, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Best to everybody.